ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Tuesday night edition of Sirhan on X, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States of America. Hope everyone had themselves a wonderful and a cool 24th of June 2025, as the summer heat has apparently hit most of the country, especially in the Midwest. And here in Cincinnati, the heat index surpassed 100 degrees. Hope everyone managed to stay cool and hydrated and well in all of these particular conditions because it was just a treacherous day outdoors for the weather. Parts of Cincinnati, parts of Ohio were hit. I know some people out east, especially in the northeastern Atlantic, were hit. Hope everyone was able to find a way to stay cool and well in midst of a lot of this weather. If you had to work in it today, like myself, I, you know, kudos to you because I had to go through it today and it was not a pleasant experience simply because having to walk around with all that sweat on you, it's not all that great. Hope everyone had themselves a wonderful day today. Going to touch on a lot of things. Actually, at the end of the show, I'm going to debut my segment because everyone likes when I say it. It's my new flash telling someone to shut up, and it goes to someone today in the NFL. That will be at the end of the show. Going to get right down to it. Of course, the big news here in Cincinnati is still ongoing. The ongoing drama that includes the Bengals fans and as well as the situations with Shemar Steward and Trey Hendrickson. Shemar Steward has stated his impasse, saying, "I'm not budging my stance to sign any contract. It's up to the Bengals if they want to keep it, and if they want me, they're going to have to agree to my terms." And we know the impasse that's going on over here. All the supposed clauses in the contract, the language, or whatever you want to call it. That's what's going on here with the rookie. And basically, he's called out the Bengals front office, which is something everyone has done for the last 3 decades. And it's basically a hot mess, just like the hot mess that's going on with the situation regarding Trey Hendrickson and his contract. Now, the situation is revealed that Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals are still negotiating, but still nothing's come close. They have a number, being the Bengals organization. Trey Hendrickson has his number, and it seemed like no one can come at a happy medium. And now we're still at an impasse, even though they said negotiations were reopened. I don't know who has really the leverage here because, during all the mini camps, it was revealed that Trey Hendrickson was fined close to $105,000. So we don't know where this one is going to wind up. But either way, it's a bad look all the way around for everybody involved in this because this stuff has gone on with this Bengals organization forever and ever and ever. And basically, it's not changing. Everyone over here in Cincinnati said there was going to be the so-called new Bengals, and they were going to change with the times after their Super Bowl run in 2021. Maybe in hindsight, they got to the Super Bowl in spite of how the ownership ran business because they've always been this way for 3 decades. Just because they had a gift-wrapped Super Bowl appearance in 2021 doesn't mean they're going to change their ways. I mean, they came back with a nice year in 2022, despite losing to Kansas City. But this is who the Bengals organization and the Bengals fans and their cosplay fans and the Cincinnati media have always been for this time. And all I named are the reasons why we have the situations with Shemar Steward and Trey Hendrickson. And it seemed like nobody wants to find a solution to this when I've simply told you all in Cincinnati for the longest time, stop making X posts. Stop trying to get in arguments about quarterback debates because Joe Burrow is not in the same conversation as Mahomes, Allen, and Jackson. Quit, attacking rival fan bases. Find a solution to what's going on with you guys over here. Zip it. Get a solution done. Quit with the TikTok videos. Quit with the podcast. Quit with going on Cincinnati media over here. All the names I've mentioned in the past. Find a solution. Get it done. Because you guys have invited this headache for the last several years. Because, again, you push narratives down people's throats that basically you need to just leave them alone. Quit worrying about what the Ravens do. Quit worrying about what the Chiefs do. Quit worrying about what the Steelers do. Get out there, solve the situations with both Hendrickson and Stewart so you can get the season started. Because you guys running your mouths on these social media platforms isn't going to solve anything. Doesn't help at all. That's why I point all of it onto you guys, because you guys forced the narrative for the last several years. Forcing people, Joe Burrow to be paid the contract he got, Jamar Chase to be paid the contract he got, T. Higgins paid the contract he got, And not to mention, you guys were celebrating a Twitter party when you signed Orlando Brown Jr. to a contract he had no business getting because the guy's not even a fifth string wide receiver, backup, fifth string left tackle at best. And that is why you guys are the mess you're in with Trey Hendrickson and Shemar Steward. You didn't think this through. You thought instinctively, you didn't even think big picture. Your short-sighted vision got the best of you. And here we are again, having another discussion simply because you don't want to resolve the situations with Trey Hendrickson and Shemar Steward. You guys are only interested in winning arguments. You guys are only interested in throwing Twitter parties. You guys are only interested in making TikTok videos. And you don't even care about Trey Hendrickson or Shemar Steward. That says a lot about you guys at the end of the day. Shut your mouths. Get off all these apps. Go out there. Resolve the solution. Get this thing done. Do I think Trey Hendrickson and Shemar Stewart's deals will find a way to get resolved? Yes. Some way, somehow, there has to be something. You can't just go on like this. Now, of course, the rumors flying around that Shemar Stewart would want to sit on and Trey Hendrickson want to sit on their contracts. I get it. But I don't know if it'll go that far because, as I said a few years ago, a fellow named Le'Veon Bell of the Pittsburgh Steelers did that, and you saw what happened. Actually, I could point to another one 2 years ago. Deshaun Watson in Houston before he got traded to Cleveland. He did that, and that's why their values dropped, and they became who they became at the end of the day. Get all you guys in Cincinnati, all you Bengals fans, all you super fans, all you Cincinnati media members, all you Bengals social media specialists behind the Bengals team account, shut your mouths, get a solution to this done, get the contract signed, period. Because you guys are the reason why this is happening. And if someone has to hold you guys accountable, it's time. And you're looking at the guy that's doing it, and it's going to start now. Enough is enough. Seems like every day I have to come on to these social media apps, and somebody, the Bengals fans, want to throw some stupid stuff. Maybe instead of talking about this, thinking Joe Burrow is in the same conversation as Josh Allen when he isn't, maybe spend that time, put a solution to having Trey Hendrickson and Shemar Stewart on the field. I mean, there goes two edge rushers on a defensive line that's thin, especially the edge position. If you lose those two, actually, with those two wouldn't even help anyway, because the entire defense was absolutely the equivalent of a turnstile last season, and it's going to be a turnstile this season. But lay off the TikTok videos, lay off the quarterback debates, get the job done, get the contract signed, get those two on the field. Let's see if you guys are good enough to do that. I'll be sitting back and watching. Ugh. And since everyone wants to talk about Joe Burrow so much here in Cincinnati, because that's the only thing they like talking about, they don't like talking about finding a solution for Trey Hendrickson and Shemar Stewart. The quarterback series on Netflix is going to be coming out, and he's going to be a part of it with Kirk Cousins of the Falcons and Jared Goff of the Lions. You know, they had the show last season, I believe. I know Mahomes was a part of it. I can't think of who else was, but it was a good series. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see the mindset of Joe Burrow and the Bengals when they were embarrassed week 1 by the tanking New England Patriots, because you know, at least I hope they do, bring that up, because that was just a humiliating embarrassment for that to happen on their home field against a team that was openly tanking with Jacoby Brissett as their quarterback. I just want to see how that locker room was after that loss. I mean, I don't care about anything else, because when you lose those kind of games week 1 of a regular season in the NFL, or even in any sport, those early losses against teams you should beat, they set tones the rest of the way for the season. And that's what happened week 1 of the 2024 season when the New England Patriots came to Cincinnati and punked the Bengals. Game wasn't even as close as the score indicated. The reason why it was close is because the Patriots didn't have any offense and they were starting Jacoby Brissett. Because I want to see the mindset of Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, what happened after losing to New England, because it was all over the media waves, you know, locally, statewide, nationally, globally, what happened that week. I want to see if it's brought up to Joe Burrow, what his thought was, what his mindset was, because he was absolutely abysmal that week 1 when basically they got nothing going, and that's why what happened. That's why I'm looking forward to the series. Of course, all 3 quarterbacks, Burrow, Cousins, and Goff had their own intriguing stories. Of course, Burrow, the comeback player of the year, coming off the wrist injury. Goff leading the Lions to the best record in the NFC, losing to the playoffs to the Washington Commanders. And of course, we talk about Kirk Cousins, his comeback after the ACL injury. Not necessarily the greatest year he had in Atlanta. Of course, the whole thing was a mess when they drafted Michael Penix Jr. after they signed Cousins. And of course, this offseason, that's still a mess because Cousins is still on the roster. I guess he's going to accept his role for now. Who knows? But this quarterback series, I liked it last couple of years when they had it. I'm looking forward to this season. But I just want to see what the mindset was of the Cincinnati Bengals, especially Joe Burrow, who the Bengals fans put on a pedestal he has no business being on. I want to see that mindset of his after week one because it's going to prove my point. That guy's not even in the Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels conversation. That is elite category. He's not even close to that because you don't let taking teams come into your field week one and punk you the way the New England Patriots did to them last season. I don't care about losing to the Chargers. I don't care about losing at home to the Steelers. You went 7-1 against teams with losing records, but it was a one-loss week one that cost you guys the postseason. No, not the Kansas City thing week 18 where they rested guys to get dog walked by the Broncos 34-0. No, that's not why you were eliminated. You lost week one to the New England Patriots. That was your season. Case closed. I just want to watch this show just to see how Joe Burrow was thinking because that's going to be intriguing. I know other fans are going to talk about, among many other things, the two shootouts between Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, which last season was a ratings hit and probably the two most drunk games you're ever going to see in the NFL. That's what we're going to find out. And of course, the fully guaranteed contract signing of Travis Hunter of the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know, I believe from a show I was on just recently in the NFL, just about half an hour ago, they said the contract was fully guaranteed. I don't divulge into the numbers because I'm not a pocket watcher. But it's created an intriguing buzz in Jacksonville when they drafted him. And it was interesting how teams were positioning in the draft to get this guy. When the Cleveland Browns had him and they made the trade with the Jacksonville Jaguars, of course, the kicker was the extra first-round draft pick Cleveland got from Jacksonville so Jacksonville can get Travis Hunter. I guess they're banking on their future to have this guy opposite Brian Thomas Jr. to help Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars get on track. Remember, 3 seasons ago, they were in the divisional round, losing to the Kansas City Chiefs. Last year, they were 9-8. But, of course, this past season, they just fell off the rails. But interesting signing. Interesting the buzz that he creates in Jacksonville. Because I haven't seen Jacksonville have this kind of a buzz in quite some time. I mean, don't know if it was going to translate to whatever on the field. I mean, they had a good offseason and a solid draft. Obviously, when you draft a guy like Travis Hunter. But I'm interested to see how this team is going to be. Their biggest luck out maybe is they're in the AFC South because outside of the Houston Texans, and there's still questions about Houston, that division might be up for grabs this season simply because that is how it's going to be. But not good signing for Jacksonville, good signing for Hunter. Create some buzz over there because remember, they're 3 years removed from being in the divisional round game. Looked like they were going to go places, but the last 2 seasons, they just fell off the rails for whatever reason. Maybe we can get them on track a little bit. Don't know if they supersede Houston in the AFC South because Houston still has a top 10 quarterback in that league in C.J. Stroud, probably the premier quarterback in that particular division. But, of course, it all depends on whether or not the Texans can actually find an offensive line to protect him. We'll see how that one goes. But it was a good signing nonetheless. And now we divulge a little bit into some other areas. Actually, one more NFL topic before I proceed because it just crossed my mind. The quarterback battle all of a sudden in Indianapolis seemed like it's Daniel Jones's to lose. Of course, we know the story with him and Anthony Richardson. Richardson's had his chances, and he just couldn't cut it up to this point. We know what happened with Daniel Jones, his time in New York. Basically, I've always said Daniel Jones is better than you think. No one's going to mistake him in the conversation of Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, or Mahomes, or any of those guys, obviously. But I thought in New York, he was most part set up to fail because the ownership and the general management team over there doesn't even know how to put together an adequate roster. That's why they've had how many consecutive seasons finishing last place in the NFC East. And now he has a chance to get another chance when he goes against Anthony Richardson, starting battle for the quarterback position. Don't think it's going to take much for Daniel Jones to overtake it, because you have a feeling maybe the clock is ticking, if it hasn't ticked and talked yet, on Anthony Richardson, because that's what's going to happen sooner rather than later. I mean, even had a game where I guess he sat out or was benched and complaining he was tired, which doesn't bode well in the NFL world. But the quarterback position in the NFL looks like it's Daniel Jones's to lose. That's probably why he signed a $14 million contract to go to Indianapolis, knowing there's an opportunity for him to start, and he's going to have actually some decent targets around him. When you're talking about Michael Pittman Jr., and of course the drafting of the Penn State standout Tyler Warren, two nice targets for him in that particular offense, and an offensive line is basically solid, but it's just Anthony Richardson, we know, who just hasn't been able to cut it since he's gotten into the league. Of course, people were big on him in his college career when he was at Georgia. That was how things are with Anthony Richardson right now. But Daniel Jones should get the starting job, in my opinion, by the time at least training camp starts. And when we get to week 1, it's going to be his job to lose. Unless something catastrophic happens or somebody actually lights a fire in Anthony Richardson, which I don't think is going to happen at this point. Daniel Jones is probably going to have that starting quarterback job at Indianapolis. He did sign on knowing it's going to be his to lose, and I think he's going to take it. And what happens to Anthony Richardson after this, who knows? Because he's been given chances and just hadn't had a chance to, I would say haven't had a chance to. He had the chance to do something, but just couldn't do it, no matter what it is. These quarterback battles are always something else in training camp. We all know this. Now to the NBA. We know what took place the other day. The big trade, the Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets. It's for the expiring contract of Dillon Brooks, the standout Jalen Green. Also in exchange were a bunch of second-round picks and the 10th overall pick going to the Houston Rockets. Question is, at this point, what is Kevin Durant's legacy, if he even has one? I mean, we know he went from Oklahoma City to Golden State after Oklahoma City blew that 3-1 lead in the 2016 Western Conference Finals. He won the 2 titles of the 2 finals MVPs. But other than that, what exactly is his legacy? I mean, the guy's a standout player. I mean, one of the efficient scorers in NBA history, no doubt. The stats are there. We all know. But now here he is. I believe it's his 5th team. Let's see, Oklahoma City, Golden State, Brooklyn. What was it before? Of course, Phoenix, and now Houston. For a superstar of his to go to 5 NBA teams and being traded around and actually at times running out, what does it really say about Kevin Durant's legacy at this point? Now, I know with this, the Suns basically had to blow things up a little bit because that trio of Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal just got nowhere. I mean, Durant had to be gone anyways. I mean, there were suitors for him, depending on what the package was. They wanted the Suns, I guess, wanted a high asking price. We talk about a player of Kevin Durant's caliber. It's understood. But I'm not sure I would have gone the route that the Houston Rockets would have gone to get him, unless they really think they can just, steamroll to the top to win the NBA championship next season, because there's still issues in that roster they need to put together. I mean, they were gift wrapped the number 2 seed last season as a result of everything that took place in that particular division. But at the end of the day, what is this trade going to do for the Houston Rockets? The only thing you could probably say the Suns sort of won this trade because they got 5 second-round draft picks. But I don't know why you didn't get a first out of it. The Houston Rockets were gifted a number 2 seed, and you add Kevin Durant. But basically, the 2 seed was gift wrapped because a lot of those teams, especially in the middle of the Western Conference, were basically inconsistent outside of the Oklahoma City Thunder. That was the Western Conference. I mean, are people going to call them the favorites? I mean, outside of Durant and Sengun, what's on their roster is going to really help. Thought trading Jalen Green wasn't necessarily the most brilliant move, but that's where we are with this particular trade. the Rockets probably will win that division again because the Spurs are on the come up, but there's still work to do. Who knows what's going to happen with Dallas? They're going to get Cooper Flag, but is he going to keep that team going the way Luka Doncic did after they traded him? And the Memphis, they just traded Desmond Bane to basically gave him away. And the other team, the New Orleans Pelicans, they just traded C.J. McCollum, and now we know Zion Williamson is just basically irrelevant. I mean, Houston probably wins that division by default, but did you get Kevin Durant to win a division by default? Because that's basically the ceiling right now for the Houston Rockets. So you could probably say the Suns won the trade in the long term. Short term, it's basically a wash. But again, question needs to be asked and a serious answer to: what is Kevin Durant's legacy when you consider how he left Oklahoma City to join a team that knocked his Thunder out of the Western Conference Finals after having a 3-1 series lead, to get 2 NBA championships alongside the standout trio of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. And after he left Golden State, hasn't done anything of relevance since. So that's going to be a question that needs to be asked. All-time scorer, gifted shooter. Okay, you can say that. But in terms of overall career legacy, only guy has one regular season MVP, 2 finals MVPs. But we know where he went to get those 2 finals MVPs. That's where the legacy needs to be asked a little bit. I mean, I love KD, premier score, at efficient level, one of the more efficient scorers in NBA history. But what is his legacy at the end of the day? That's something that needs to be asked. And speaking of Durant's old team, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they finished the job over the weekend by beating Indiana. Of course, the unfortunate circumstance with Tyrese Haliburton. Get well soon, Tyrese. We all love you. It was unfortunate. Basically, when I saw the Haliburton injury, it reminded me of what happened to Durant in 2019 when his Achilles went out in that openers of the finals against the Toronto Raptors. Exact same injury, and we know what happened to Durant after that. And as far as Haliburton, hopefully he can come back some point in the 2025-26 season and still be at a high-level player. But the Oklahoma City Thunder, a lot of people are calling this a Mickey Mouse championship because the Pacers had Tyrese Haliburton out for Game 7, and the Pacers had the early lead while he was out there. Of course, he got out to the hot start. But calling this thing a Mickey Mouse championship makes you guys Mickey Mouse characters, period. This team, from start to finish, won 68 regular season games, basically almost like had a cruise control to the NBA Finals out of the Western Conference. I mean, the team was just loaded, that 9-man roster, especially when we talk about the MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. A lot of people say a lot of things when it comes to free throw merchant with him or whatever. The official result is there. They got the job done, and they deserve to be recognized as the 2025 NBA champions. No asterisks, no paper championships, no Mickey Mouse championships. If you think the Oklahoma City Thunder is a Mickey Mouse champion, go to a hospital and get checked for CTE and get the results so I can help you. Because you don't win 68 regular season games, finish it off with the NBA title by winning it on your home court in a Game 7, and just be a Mickey Mouse champion. Yes, the Tyrese Haliburton injury was unfortunate. It was. Does not make the fact that the Oklahoma City Thunder was the right winners, earned it fair and square. A terrific banner year for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and the Thunder are the team to beat in the NBA going into the 2025-26 season, like it or not. No Mickey Mousing with them. They got the job done, whether you guys like it or not. I mean, too many conspiracy theories over here. Everybody wants to talk about how the NBA has a lost product. No one's going to mistake the Oklahoma City Thunder for being the Showtime Lakers, because all they were about was the results, and they got the results. Remember, they had the 1 seed last year, but ran into the buzzsaw of the Dallas Mavericks. But this year, they were driven to finish the job, and they did it. So they deserve props, and they're the champs, whether people like it or not. There's no such thing as a Mickey Mouse champ when it comes to this team. No one's going to put this team among the all-time greats, obviously, but that's another conversation for another day. Point is, they won the championship legitimately. Anyone that has a problem with it is the problem. Case closed. I hate when people say asterisk and Mickey Mouse championships. It's just the most moronic thing you could ever say. Now to the world of boxing. And of course, news this week is the super event. As I said, super event, not super fight. That's going to take place September 13th at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Is, of course, Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford. I said super event because there's nothing more than that. There's a lot of overhyping going on, a lot of personal insults being thrown all over the place in the respective fan bases, a lot of cowardice and moronism going on with both fan bases directed at each other. You guys are making a big deal out of absolutely nothing both ways. And I'm talking about both fan bases, and especially the ones I respect all across the social media platforms, and you know who you are. Chill out. It's not worth, getting personal over. It's not worth throwing insults at people over. It's not worth getting offended over. Why? Because it's just a freaking sport event. I mean, you guys are going to live after September 13th. You guys are going to be financially stable after September 13th. You guys are going to be breathing after September 13th. Everyone with this needs to chill out. There's too much overhyping going on with this because both guys are on the wrong side of their careers. One guy's fought like three times in the last 3 years. The other guy hasn't had a real quality performance in about 5 years. And now you guys trying to act like this is like the greatest thing you guys ever saw. I mean, the fight is at least a year past its expiration date. We all know this. Simply because Crawford wanted to take a sweet little time to get to 168, and Canelo was still stuck in the PBC banner till he finally broke through and went to the whatever he went to afterwards. Because that's what we have here. A great cash out and a financial bonanza for both to be stable after this particular fight financially. But 90 to 95% of you guys in the boxing community need to chill out and go live in a freezer because you guys are making a big hup out of something that's really nothing. Simple. There's nothing to get hyped up about, nothing to go crazy about, nothing to attack people about, nothing to get personal about, especially Canelo fans who disrespect Salvador Sanchez and Julio Cesar Chavez. I'll be dealing with you later. Especially Terence Crawford fans who think he's in the same conversation as Pernell Whitaker and Sugar Ray Robinson when he's not. I'll be dealing with you guys later. Everyone in the boxing community needs to shut up and chill out. All this is just an event, nothing more, nothing less, nothing to attack people over, nothing to get personal over, nothing to slander people over, because all this is an event, nothing more, nothing less. I mean, you guys are already putting this in the same category as Hagler Leonard and Whitaker Chavez. Some of you guys are sick in the head for real. You guys need checked. Now, that's not even close. I mean, Hagler Leonard and Whitaker Chavez were global events that everyone had real buzz for, not just because of the event, but also because there were guys at the peak or close to their peak and was still fighting at a high level and basically had strong followings both ways. Hagler and Leonard in their fight, Whitaker and Chavez in their fight. I don't know where this one is. Maybe the Canelo diehards who think he's in the same conversation as Salvador Sanchez when he isn't, because Sanchez was a genuine great, something Canelo Alvarez fans don't like to accept. But all the overhyping that's being done in social media in regards to Canelo Crawford needs to zip it. There's nothing much to hype about. All this is just an event. No need to get offended. No need to attack people. No need to act like Canelo and Crawford is going to overtake Sugar Ray Robinson as the greatest fighter pound for pound of all time, because that's not going to happen. Neither guy even reached halfway close to that level. So you'll need to just chill out. We'll talk about that more on September 13th. Nothing to go crazy over because it's not worth going crazy over. If you're still going crazy over it, then you were just born crazy in every walk of life, period. Some people are about to get it, and I'm about to dish it. You guys don't know me like that. Chill out. Now to the historical moment that took place. This was 46 years ago at Madison Square Garden. This was a doubleheader that took place on HBO Sports World Championship Boxing. Back then, it was originally home box office boxing because that's how it was introduced when George Foreman fought Joe Frazier January 22nd, 1973 in its inception. That's when it eventually became World Championship Boxing. And what we had here was a doubleheader that featured Roberto Duran and Larry Holmes. The first one was Larry Holmes defending his heavyweight title against the tough and durable Mike Weaver. A well-chiseled physique, always gave an honest effort. not known for his chin, was basically supposed to be a tune-up because Larry Holmes had signed an agreement for a rematch with Ernie Shavers. But Mike Weaver came in with a lot of other ideas. And the story with this one here, Larry Holmes basically was going for the early round knockout to try and get rid of him. He gassed out. And after that, Mike Weaver came on and looked like he was going to get the job done and pull the upset. Mike Weaver, for that time, was the perfect case of a fighter. When he delivered the hit, it was it. But when he got hit, and you can take his hit, that was it. And Mike Weaver looked like he was going to deliver that hit and win the heavyweight title from Holmes in a fight where in the middle rounds, as Holmes was starting to tire, Weaver was starting to do damage. And Mike Weaver had the kind of a punch, he hit you right, you were on the canvas. And he basically put on a clinic in the middle rounds on how to throw right hands against a guy known for that great left jab that Larry Holmes had, and that's what Mike Weaver did. But as this fight was going on, now you start to see Larry Holmes gain a second win, and then Mike Weaver, he starts to tire, and then in the 10th and 11th rounds, as the pace, even though it starts to slow down, Larry Holmes started to find his mark as he floored Weaver in the 11th round, and then eventually in the 12th round, the uppercut that floored Weaver, and that was the end of that fight. Larry Holmes made a successful defense of the heavyweight title. The real story of this one is this fight was on a closed circuit, originally on a closed circuit network, which was retelevised by HBO because none of the major networks wanted this particular fight because of how lightly regarded Mike Weaver was, and people wanted to see Larry Holmes against some of the better opposition. Now, of course, this is a year after he wins the heavyweight championship from Ken Norton, and really the division hit a spaz point for about a year and a half because Muhammad Ali retired. George Foreman's on his hiatus. Joe Frazier is basically retired himself. And some of the other heavyweights like Ken Norton, Jimmy Young, among others, were on the downturn. So nobody wanted to do this. Don King literally had to pay the Madison Square Garden $150 million to have that fight and that card under his name so he can have that fight as a part of that twin bill he had with Roberto Duran versus Carlos Palomino. But Larry Holmes, at that time, maybe the toughest defense he had of his heavyweight championship, when he had a fight against Mike Weaver, where Mike Weaver just gave Larry Holmes all he could handle and then some, looked like he was going to do it. But when he started to tire, Larry Holmes basically comes out in the 12th round, does the damage, puts Weaver in trouble, and gets the stoppage win to retain the heavyweight championship. Just a stellar performance by Larry Holmes. Part of that run where he had 7.5 years as the heavyweight champ and successfully defended the title 20 times. Weaver eventually would win a portion of the heavyweight title later on, but lost it in a one-round obliteration of Michael Dokes in 82. Never could get to that level. But Mike Weaver was a very, very solid heavyweight. I mean, no one's going to put him in the upper echelon of all-time greats that Larry Holmes was, obviously. But always gave an honest effort, a very good punch, actually decent physique for a boxer, because as I mentioned in my Ken Norton telecasts, boxers are not known for their physiques. But Mike Weaver had one, not necessarily the greatest chin, but an exciting fighter and a good one to watch. Gave it his best effort against an all-time great in Larry Holmes, who was just on his march to greatness in the middle of that 7.5-year reign. A reign maybe none of the heavyweights today will even sniff. I mean, forget Joe Louis's record for a minute. That's unbreakable. None of the ones today will sniff Holmes unless you win the championship and sit on the belt for 5 years. But we know how the political aspect of boxing works. But great win for Larry Holmes. Actually, doesn't give enough credit for it because no one's going to mistake Mike Weaver for an all-time great. But he needed to go to the well, find a second win when the times got rough, and he did it. And the capper that night was the welterweight debut of the hit sensation Roberto Duran, fighting a very underrated fighter of the Latino community in Carlos Palomino. Nobody talks about Carlos Palomino when we mention the all-time great Latino fighters. It was a very, very sound fighter in that welterweight division, and it was the first fight for Roberto Duran in that welterweight division as he was looking forward to making his mark after cleaning out the lightweight division. And you know the story was there. The capper was, of course, the third win over Esteban de Jesus to win the undisputed lightweight championship. And that's what we had there that night. And so what we have here is basically the question was, can Roberto Duran's skill move up to welterweight? It did. Against a very, very strong, durable, and very solid Latino fighter, Carlos Palomino. Basically, the story here was Roberto Duran just showed every aspect of his skill that he showed at lightweight, carried with him to welterweight, and he got the unanimous decision win, floored Palomino in the 6th round, had him hurt many times as the later rounds was going on. But the Roberto Duran continued his run toward greatness. The locomotive that was Manos de Piedra, Hands of Stone, showed itself again at Madison Square Garden, a place that was his home during his reign as lightweight when he just obliterated Ken Buchanan to win that particular championship. And he carried on to beat Carlos Palomino, packing Madison Square Garden that night. And basically a fight that was basically almost like a toss-up fight. Duran was only a 7.5 to 5 favorite. Basically dominated a very darn good fighter in Carlos Palomino. I mean, made Palomino look like he didn't belong in the same ring with him. And for you in-depth fight followers, especially in the Latino community, especially in the historical side, you knew how very good of a fighter Carlos Palomino was. But there's a reason why Roberto Duran's an all-time great. There's a reason why he has a distinction of the greatest Latino fighter ever and had the distinction of the best fighter pound for pound and the fighter of the 70s. Showed it all on that night, an array of skills against a good fighter in Carlos Palomino, and just basically owned him that night. And basically, it catapulted him to what took place a year later afterwards in Montreal when he beat Ray Leonard to win the welterweight championship. And when he did that, put his name amongst the elite in boxing history, joining Henry Armstrong and Barney Ross as the only 3 lightweight champs to win the welterweight title at the time. And he needed the Palomino win to get that title shot, and he got it, and he capitalized. Salute as always to the great Roberto Duran. I mean, Manos de Piedra, a living legend, bar none. Probably a top 15 all-time great in the all-time pound-for-pound rankings. Because we talk about fighters of the last 50 to 60 years, he's always going to be among the very top. Tells you about the greatness of Roberto Duran. And I conclude with this as I say, we talk about my news segment. It's called Newsflash Shut Up, because everybody knows I say it, so I'm going to make a segment out of it. And today, when we talk about Newsflash Shut Up, what's going to be talked about is what's going to took place earlier today. It was an interview with Browns wide receiver Deontay Johnson. You guys know the story. He bounced around, especially in the NFL community. Who knows this? He's bounced around many teams: Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Houston. Just couldn't find a home. He couldn't actually cut it with Mike Tomlin with Pittsburgh. That should tell you the story with him right there. But the story with this is Deontay Johnson, once again, finds a way to make a fool of himself. He was asked about the time in Baltimore, why he wouldn't go in. Turns out he refused to go in because he did not want to play in a condition that was 41 degrees. And we know how football weather is. And I'm going to read this quote as he was talked about. He did not want to enter the game because it was 41 degrees. He wasn't getting into run plays, no passing plays or nothing. It was cold. It's 41 degrees. End of the third, going into the fourth, they were like, Tay, we need you, as in Deontay Johnson. No, it's not a good idea for me. His legs were already ice cold, and he didn't want to go out there and put bad stuff on film. It's not like he didn't want to go into the game, but leading up to his point, he supposedly had been through so much that he told him he was not going to go in, so I just sat on the bench, and that's why they suspended me. You just signed with the Cleveland Browns, and we know what happened in a Thursday night tilt between the Browns and the Steelers where it was stone cold and snowy. And you were playing in the NFL where when temperatures hit basically from Halloween to the rest of the way, the temperatures are going to get colder. You're going to have cold weather. And you're saying you didn't want to go to the game because you were playing in cold weather. Newsflash, Deontay Johnson, shut up. You know your 5 minutes of time in the NFL is up. You should be thankful you're getting a chance in Cleveland. Now, of course, it doesn't say much when we talk about getting opportunities with the Cleveland Browns. But here's the problem. You've burned every bridge possible that you could possibly burn. I mean, you did it in Pittsburgh. You found a way to burn the bridge with Mike Tomlin, and Tomlin was doing everything he can to work with you, especially the year you had 1,200 yards receiving. You go to you go for the division rival Baltimore, and that didn't end well with this. You go to Houston, that didn't even last a minute. You went back to Baltimore. I think the only reason why you went back to Baltimore so nobody else can pick him up, which understandably so, and I get it. But Deontay Johnson, your 5 minutes of fame are up, and at this point, you need to just shut up and just play the game. Don't worry about the temperatures. Don't shoot your mouth off, because simply put, you're just making a fool out of yourself when you make that kind of a comment saying you wouldn't go into the game because it was 40 degrees. Newsflash, I walk the streets in a suit and tie in 35-degree weather, and I'm not even bothered. You say you're not going to go into an NFL game on a 41-degree day because your legs are cold, and you're going to put bad stuff on film. Maybe you're not built for the NFL if that's how you're going to be. You just look silly, and you just look foolish with that kind of a comment. Newsflash, Deontay Johnson, shut up. If you're going to play the game, play the game. If you're not going to play the game, get out. Plain and simple. I swear, these days, the NFL is not what it used to be, where people don't even give a darn what the weather was. Doesn't matter if it's 100 degrees in the hot heat like it was today here in Cincinnati, to 100 degrees below zero in icy conditions. Shoot, ask the members of the Cincinnati Bengals and the San Diego Chargers of the Freezer Bowl of 1981, when it was like 59 below zero and with the wind chill factor on that day. Trust me, they went through it. And if they can go through it, anybody can go through it. Tells you about the sensitivity and the softness of some of the players in today's NFL. Reasons like that. There's a reason why bridges were burnt when it comes to Deontay Johnson, and that was it. Plain and simple. Some of these men need to grow up. And we're talking about men in the NFL. Amazing. And that'll wrap up this edition of Sirhan on X. I will be back tomorrow night. I hope everyone had themselves a wonderful rest of the 24th of June in the calendar year 2025. For those that missed any of this show, you can listen to the audio versions on the Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify apps. And as always, make self-care your number one priority in life. If you take care of yourself first, good things will come your way. If you don't take care of yourself first, nothing else matters. Always focus on you first, because good things will come your way and good things will follow if you stay true to yourself. Until then, have a good rest of the night. Take care of yourselves. God bless, and enjoy the evening.